So this video is going to be a little different, maybe a little controversial. You know, anybody that pays attention to Wild West history and the Billy the Kid and the Brushy Bill Roberts story, fascinating story. But I want to go over the reasons I think it's impossible for us to ever know for sure whether or not Brushy Bill was Billy the Kid. Like everything else in this world, mysteries that will never be solved. I think this is one of them. I am open to the idea. I would, I do have an opinion about it, but I'm going to try not to share it in this video. I'm just going to go over the reason why I think we'll never really know. And I think it's impossible to really know. And obviously I'm not an expert. I'm just somebody that pays attention and reads a little bit on the subject and fascinated by the subject. So if anybody has anything to add that could take away or add to whatever I'm about to put out, please do so. We'll start a conversation. Again, there's a lot of people that are real passionate about this. People in Texas believe they have Billy the Kid. And people in New Mexico don't think they do. Think they have him. So, very interesting story. But I'm going to go through the reasons why I think we'll never know. Obviously, the best way to determine whether or not Brushy Bill Roberts was in fact Billy the Kid, the best way to do that would be DNA. And in 2003, the New Mexico people that believe Billy the Kid is there, they had a campaign to exhume the remains of Billy the Kid and his mother to prove that he was Billy the Kid and he was buried in New Mexico. There's a problem with this, though, because they don't know exactly where Billy the Kid was buried within that small cemetery. The headstone and stuff is placed in the center to represent that he was buried there, but no one knows exactly what the grave is, and that's due to a couple of things. In 1904, the Pecos River flooded and damaged the cemetery greatly, and a lot of the graves were unearthed, and people had to be reinterred into the ground. Most of the people were unidentified, being placed back into graves. So there's really no way of knowing exactly where he would be, or even if he is there. They say some graves probably washed down the river and were never seen again. So it's possible that Billy the Kid's not even there. And there was an effort also at some point, the soldiers that were buried at the Fort Sumner Cemetery were moved to a national cemetery in Santa Fe. So the military went in there and they exhumed some bodies, and they knew at the time that the famous outlaw was buried there. So they took real care into not taking the remains of someone who didn't have a military uniform on when they were exhuming bodies to move them. So it's possible, but not probable, that he was moved to Santa Fe with soldiers. I doubt he was wearing any military uniform, so I think they probably did not move him. But the story is we don't know exactly where he is. No one knows exactly where he is in that graveyard. Even if it's somebody else, which is what Brushy Bill Roberts claims, there's no one knowing where that person is buried. So that's one problem. And when the flood happened, Billy the Kid's headstone was washed away down the river as well, and it went 28 years at being unmarked completely. So not only was the bodies unearthed during the flood, but the headstone was flooded away, and it took 28 years for them to put a new headstone up. They erected a new headstone in 1932. And it was placed, like I said, in the center of the cemetery. It was unknown where the original grave was located. Not only that, but Billy the Kid's mother has a similar issue. She is buried in Silver City, New Mexico, and the cemetery was sold in 1882, and the new owner was required to move the graves outside the city limits. It is not known if the bodies were moved or just the headstones. It is not known if her marker location is the actual location of her remains. It is possible the marker was just a guess of her location, and due to the age of the possible grave, the body could be decomposed to the point where DNA would be impossible anyway. So, if you had the right grave, maybe you could prove some of this, but that's the problem, is we don't know exactly where his mother is. We don't know exactly where he is. The only person that we know in this whole saga is where Brushy Bill is buried. We know where he's buried. His body could be exhumed and DNA could be taken. But the problem is there would be nothing to compare it to. I think I heard some story about some hair in New Mexico they claim is Billy the Kid, but I don't know if they even know that for sure. Now, I would concede that if they had some hair in New Mexico from the 1880s and Brushy Bill was a match to that, then I would concede that's probably him. But what's the odds of that? I mean, I don't even think they know that the hair would be Billy's in the first place. And not only that, but Brushy Bill Roberts claims that Catherine Antrim was not his real mother, but an aunt related by marriage. So DNA would not even be of any value. There would be no other person that Brushy Bill Roberts' remains could be compared to. So basically, for that reason, in my opinion, there's no way to prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt. Everybody's got their opinions about it, and people are pretty passionate about it. But coming to a lock solid, this definitely was him, it's not possible. And that's kind of what I wanted to take you through. And I hope you like, share, and subscribe. And appreciate you watching the video. Thank you.